show. So excited. Hello everyone who's watching. This is yes, we got keep flying on for the first episode of Shae and Sai's Fringe Benefits, the show where we basically put whatever the hell we want on because
Yeah,
we want to go into more of our interests and our loves. And before we get to John from Keep Flying, let's talk to Sai. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. And, uh, to kind of launch this new show, I've decided to put some bling around my circle, just
I see
a
that.
little bit. Got to get a little stage production going on, production
I
value.
appreciate the effort put in.
Thank
It's
you.
I watched you do it last minute, and it definitely adds a lot.
Yes, this was literally 3 minutes of work. Thank you for
it,
noticing. That trailer,
yes,
though,
I know.
that
Right.
intro was not 3 minutes of work. You worked on that so hard last night, babe, and you
It
did
was
an awesome job.
a couple hours. It's fine. It's fine. Who needs
It's
sleep? Like
fun.
sleep is overrated.
We literally sat here going through because we have access to a music and sound effects subscription service that we can use on a monetized channel. Um, we literally sat there listening to entire albums of stuff to try to figure out what songs that we wanted to use on this and
Well,
going
and
back and
the
forth.
worst part is we have Keep Flying on, which is an amazing ska band. We got John from there, and it's so much fun, and their music is so good. And I can't use it because it's copyright. So I'm like, no, I want you all to hear it. But I also, we're trying to promote indie creators of all kinds, and you guys have such a fun vibe. Like, so a little background for anyone who doesn't know. I say we, I went to a Save Ferris concert in Baltimore, and there were two people who opened. We had King of the Wild Things, and they were fun and had a lot of energy, and they're really sweet guys. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then Keep Flying came on, and I legitimately like was jumping up and down the whole time. I was screaming. We even have one of the people who took me there, Allie Minter. Hello, Allie. This is the girl who got me to this concert. It was Allie and Jared, and we all went and hung out. And as a result, I got to meet such a loving, sweet, positive band that is just so. You guys were so much fun. So not only is your music really good, but you guys have like a really strong positive message that you kind of put out there that I really, really appreciated because there's so much shit in the world. There's so much drama. There's so much down and negativity. And I guess I really just, I've got so many questions. One to start with is how in the hell did all six of you just come together to do a ska band in 2023?
So the short version of that, all of us, minus four of us out of the six, did ska bands before this band. We
Okay.
all tried with our old bands. We all had nominal success in some degrees. Some of us went overseas with our old bands. Most of us got to travel full time, at least in the U.S. And Chuck and Dustin, who didn't do any ska music before, also had their fair share of success with their old bands. So all of us preemptively, before this band formed, had done music full time. So we were all acclimated already to touring, watching the industry change and grow, and some parts of it get worse and some parts get better. Friends come
Yep.
and go. From the start of this band, only Henry and I have been from the very beginning.
Mhm.
Pete, our drummer, came very quickly after the first EP was recorded. And then as the band went on, we had some lineup changes, and this is the current lineup now, which is even more so solidified in the fact that Ricky, Dustin, and Chuck all had a lot of experience before this band. Why we're still trying to do music like this? Well, one, the obvious answer, I play saxophone.
Yeah.
That's my primary instrument, and I wasn't really interested in doing something different because that is what I'm decent at. And Henry really didn't want to give up the idea of keeping something that he loves so much around and being someone who can hopefully bridge the gap for those who either have a bad predisposition of what the genre of music is, or just fell out of it, because that was something I listened to when I was 14 years old, and I'm an adult now. And so with that, I will say that whatever people want to call us, we accept. And yes, we clearly go out and we play. We open for some of the larger ska bands still, and a lot of punk bands as well. But we've tried with our music to keep the elements of ska and the attitude that we like within our music, while attempting to do not necessarily something that's completely new and original, but more so something that is merging a few genres together, so that way we can appeal to more people and hopefully be that bridge to, oh, you guys have horns and you made it not corny, or you made it something different. You know, you sound more like Yellow Card if they got rid of the violin and had horns. It's like, well, yes, this is we love bands like this. You sound like Motion City Soundtrack if there were horns instead of synth. You know, you sound like, you know, Less Than Jake and Set Your Goals smushed together. We're like, yeah, because we're trying to do that specifically. Yeah. So that way we still love the music that we're playing, so we don't feel outdated and stuck and left behind in 1997 or 2001. While also having what we loved from the past with what we love now. And I think that is working, because we do meet a lot of people like yourself who are like, I just had so much fun, and it was amazing. It felt like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Volume 1, 2, 3 soundtrack.
Yeah.
But it's now, it's 2023. So what do you mean, you know?
So the thing that I think probably stood out the most for me is there's so many, like you're talking about, there's all these different elements to this kind of music that you guys have created. And Shae, I'm so sorry. I wish you were there, because I think you would have had an absolute blast. But I have the record, because I couldn't not. So I've got the record so we can listen to it together, and I will introduce Shae to Keep Flying. But the thing that I think that I loved the most is you guys do merge so many different things together. And when the first song I heard you guys say, I was like, oh, this is more punk than I would say ska. And then, you know, you get to another one, I was like, wait, this is more like kind of rocky metal, like hitting those vibes. And then the next thing I know, you know, you are on somebody else's back playing the saxophone, and I'm like, and there's the ska. I see it now. Like, okay, we're and it all blends so beautifully together, but it really is its own thing. It has ska influence, but it also has punk influence. It has metal influence. It has all of these different things. And I love that you guys found a way to just put all of that together, and you just seem like you genuinely are having so much fun. And it's nice to see, because I've seen so many bands that play together and you can tell, like, oh, the bassist and the lead singer got in an argument right before they got on here, and they are not having it. Whereas you guys just all seem like you were best friends and, you know, chilling and enjoying. So
there's no question, especially because all of us have been doing this a long time, that is definitely something that happens.
Oh, you know,
yeah. The last live concert I went to was Depeche Mode in 1994.
Yeah. Son of a bitch, Shae.
Heavens.
Okay. The next time you come to Baltimore, I'm stealing Shae, and we're going to come and see you guys again, because holy shit. It's so long ago.
Thank you. Way to make me feel old as fuck. I appreciate that.
I mean, it's not my fault that you haven't been to a concert since I was a literal child.
Look, there was one other concert I went to that had like 200 people with it. It might have been V&V Nation. It might have been someone related to that, but it was in the mid 90s. So
incredible.
Okay. Wow.
Things have changed, I'll tell you. I watched the clips from U2 playing in the Las Vegas Sphere venue. I don't know if you've seen the clips go up yet. Oh,
I've seen the Sphere, and that thing is a technological marvel.
This is insane. When you see the clips, I seen it on Twitter. It's wild to see like this. This is what's going to happen. This is what it's going to be now. This is a different thing. Um, yeah, that the arguments happen.
Yeah, of course they do.
We do our best. We as a band have grown as individuals and as friends, and we've even on this last tour that we did, it was a very long tour. We had a couple moments throughout the tour where there were arguments, or this kind of stuff happens, but we've gotten way better at dealing with and discussing and verbalizing and listening, explaining, myself included, and I had a big problem with that for a long time. Ultimately, the one thing I can say in regards to what you said right before I started speaking is that, yes, we on stage, even in moments like that, I think I can speak for my whole band when I say that 30 to 40 minutes or 25 to 40 minutes, whatever we're playing that night, is truly like the highlight of the day. And the point where, whether it's issues with ourselves or something at home or work or anything, it kind of just ceases for a moment. And it is genuinely just like happiness on stage, playing to play, watching. When I put my glasses on and see anyone laughing or smiling, the energy's coming back, or someone jumping, any sort of crowd participation, it hits me right back and makes me go, well, this is why I'm here on a Thursday instead of anything else that I could be doing. And thank God that I'm here doing this, because now I have like genuine peace and I feel like fulfilled for my day.
Yeah.
More so after playing, when I have conversations like I did with yourself, where someone is genuinely talking to me person to person and saying anything kind, or a question. I get it asked about my ears all the time, clearly. The jewelry will be out, my ears are hanging, people are asking questions. I love human beings. I love interacting with human beings. And it makes me feel welcome, safe, secure, hopeful is another word I would like to use, especially when someone says something that we did or said or spoke to them in any way during a 30-minute set of art.
So that was something that was really cool at the concert that I actually saw you guys in, is because there was a little moment where you were pretty much the only person in the band that was still on the stage. I think everybody got drinks or pee or something, but you were up there and you were just kind of talking, like just being a human being. And for whatever reason, I couldn't even repeat what it is that you said that just hit me so hard, but for whatever reason, you said exactly what it felt like I needed to hear. And it was so raw, it was so genuine, it was so just like, hey, gloves off. I understand that we're up here, we're having fun and all this kind of stuff. I'm just letting you know, I get it. It's hard. And that's why I'm up here doing this, is because I'm trying to make it a little less hard for you today. And it was one of those moments where I was just like, I absolutely have to talk to this person. And at first I was like, I wonder if it's just John, if it's just you that has this personality. And every time I talk to another member of your band, they all just, oh yeah, no, that's so great. Oh, I'm so happy that you liked what we did. And like everyone just genuinely you all seem shocked, which made me like want to laugh, because I was like, you guys are putting out so much positivity. And then when somebody's like, yeah, I felt that positivity, you're like, oh, you did? Oh, I didn't realize. Like,
I think that reaction is, again, I'm going to speak for the whole band. Though we often powwow and express how we feel we deserve certain rewards or things for the amount of work that we've put in since this band started in 2016, even when we get those affirmations, sometimes I think we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome and feel like, oh, we're not really supposed to, because we're just supposed to be the band that got this much higher up and we have a safe space amongst just the people, the 30 people in each city who care about us, and that's it. And so I feel like when a stranger expresses those positive things back, and or we do get some of these offers that come through, sometimes I think we because all of us had only a certain level of success with all the bands before Keep Flying, and then we're here now. I feel like all of us, though we feel like we should and want it, have like a foot in and a foot not in, because we're
Yeah.
like, yeah, but it's not going to happen. It's not going
imposter
to be any more
syndrome
than what it
is
is.
kind of the same across anything creative, because we hear that constantly with artists, writers,
Yeah.
and it's so weird too that it's such a common thing.
Well, and it's so pervasive because the imposter syndrome really is coming from the fact that, especially for our generations, like I think that we span probably, Gen X and unfortunately a little bit of millennial, but looking at
That's gross. You're
those
gross.
generations, looking at those generations, there was a whole lot of like shame that was brought into anything that we do. If you weren't the absolute best, that like if you weren't first or last, if you
Yeah.
don't give it 110%, if you can only give it 70% today, like that isn't good enough and you're never going to succeed. And so we had so much negative self-talk that was like built into our lives that it's really hard to believe when you do things well and people are like, this is amazing, to be like, I deserve this credit. And you're like, no, but other people are better than me and it shouldn't be me. You should be loving these other people. But I honestly think it's just imposter syndrome is so prevalent with creatives because we're so used to negative self-talk that we feel like if you talk yourself up, you're arrogant. And so
Right.
you can't allow it.
You know what? I think, speaking for myself, so I didn't have a father, you know. My mother is the best, but she had 5 children. Um, and I'm the oldest and the only male. And I did so much and I was so supportive till today. I've always been supported and like, yeah, you could do this. But I never had, as a kid and becoming a young adult, I never had someone really helping me push things. So I would push as much as I could, and then I'd get comfortable with it, and then I'd step to the side instead of maybe I could have maybe pushed something a little bit harder. But I just didn't have anyone kind of being like, why don't you're at 90%, like keep going to 98. So a lot of things throughout my life I've taken like to a point and then not given up on, but stepped to the side a little bit when I feel like, oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. This is the first thing. Keep Flying is the first thing that, almost to a fault, at times I'm like, oh no, I have to keep pushing this. And it unfortunately impacts other avenues of my life because I feel so urgently to, well, it's so close. It's just so close. I got to push just a little bit further.
Absolutely.
So I think, and biased, I have worked with, for work, I tour managed over the course of the last 12 years, many very successful global touring artists who do really well, sell a lot of records, make a lot of money on the road, selling merch and between their guarantees and their merch. And a lot of my experience has been around people who couldn't care less that they're there in that position and or taking it for granted. And in hindsight, when I look back, I'm like, man, I helped so many people live my dream, and half of them take it for granted. It actually really pisses me off because I'd do anything to have had any of the opportunities for my art, my music. And I think that's another driving force for me because they're out there, as I'm sure they are with every sort of art. It just, there are people who become jaded to it and it just like, it's just whatever, or it's just a job, but the passion's not as much of there as it was.
And I think that that's the difference between a job and a calling, right? So if somebody like what I do, I'm active duty military. It's very much a job. This is not my calling. I don't go to work and go, oh man, every day I just feel so pumped up and
Right.
amazing. And it's hard to say because a lot of people are like, oh, but the sacrifice and the moving, and it's you do so much, and I'm like, and there's plenty of people that want that life, that want to be able to do that. And so to them, I'm taking it for granted. To me, it's just not my calling. It's not where my
Right.
passion lies. And
Right.
so when you find that thing where you're looking at other people and you're like, man, I would kill to have that opportunity, and it feels like you don't even care about it. If there's nothing else you can pull from it, at least you can say, well, I'm pretty sure I know what my passion is now. Like, my passion is clearly this thing that I'm like, oh, why do you take this for granted? Like, that's where I need to be in life. And I think that it's a really important thing to kind of be able to figure out. Like, if you're ever someplace and you just feel like you're going into a job every day, maybe that isn't where you're supposed to be. Maybe you should be somewhere else.
Which, again, some days, not all, but some days, even with this, especially when me and my bandmates, if we've had an argument about some days, it's like, man, I just need to get today going. But even in those moments, I'm very lucky that the half hour we play, that dissipates. And yeah, I'm really blessed that, man, I had a great moment when in last Friday we played at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, which is a place we play very often. Our friend runs the place. She lives upstairs. She always takes care of us. We're friends with a lot of bands in the area, so it's always easy to put together. I had a great moment with a young individual after the set where we had this long conversation, a very man, it's really touched me because I've mentioned it a few times now since it's happened. But we just had this really long moment and conversation. I was very vulnerable. I told this complete stranger things about myself that I don't really tell anybody, and we embraced, and they gave me a really big hug, and we shared some tears and then some laughs and some smiles. And that moment like that makes me go, yeah, I'm good. Like I'm good. This is
Yeah.
this is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. All the little moments that are whatever, where I'm
Those are
annoyed or
just the
pissed,
stepping stones.
that's it. It's just what it is because I had to get to that moment right there because
Yep.
that interaction I had with just that one person made me feel really accomplished and made me feel really important, at least as a person who needed to say some things to someone who needed to hear some things, and then have her say some things to me that I guess I needed to hear back. And it sat in here, and it's been over a week since that interaction, and I'm like that. I'm still sitting on that interaction specifically over the last 10 days, and I'm like, man, that was a big one. That was a good one.
That's awesome though. And I love the fact that in these kinds of things, like when you're chasing your passion, the amount of opportunity that you have to connect with people, and like you never know the impact that you have on someone else's life, right? You always are just hoping, like you just try to be a good person. You're hoping that somebody feels like you might be a good person, and great. But when you find yourself in the right place at the right time with the right person, it's just an amazing thing. This is actually so Death Metal Hero, this is my buddy Luke. He's basically like my brother. Um and he's my brother because we both came into each other's lives when we both needed it, when we were both down, when we both had a lot of stuff going on, and we were having our own issues that were very separate from one another. And we call ourselves ride or die because we've been through so much together. And those are, if I hadn't chased this streaming and indie comics and art and all this other, these passions that I have, if I just went to my job every day, I would have never met Luke. I would never have that in my life, and I wouldn't have that same level of enrichment. It's the same with Shae. I wouldn't have Shae in my life if I hadn't done all of these things. And that's something that, when you start to collect those good people, that's when you realize that whatever you're doing, you got to be doing something good. You got to be doing something good. Yes, Sai did force me to chase the things.
Everyone who
That's
knows
for
how
sure.
our channel started knows that I basically browbeat Shae into doing a show, and yeah, yeah.
Pretty much.
From there,
Yeah.
that's where it all started. So you can blame
That's
me
great.
I
for
got
the
bullied into it. 4 years later, we're still going strong, and I
for the
absolutely love what we
over
do.
600 projects you've backed so far.
Yep.
I mean, not for nothing, when Henry came to my house upset that his old band was calling it a day, and we talked about what he could do differently for future songs, and then he sent me the songs like a week later, and I wasn't supposed to be in the band. I was just a friend. And I'm like, these songs are really good, man. And then he asked me to record on the record. Like, can you record my brother's going to play trombone, but will you do the sax stuff? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then it wasn't until we were in the studio where I was like, oh, I got to do this, don't I?
You're like, oh, this is it.
At 30, I hadn't been in a band that was trying to be a serious band since 2009. This was
Wow.
early 2016. So I had given up the idea of being in like a touring band. I was still playing music with my friends at home, but I gave up the idea of like doing it like I did it in my past bands because I just really felt no urgency anymore. And I was working
Right.
for bands. I was finally getting paid money, tour managing, selling merch. I was like, oh, so I found my place. I like doing the business. This is great. I like this. In the studio, I'm like, dude, these songs are exactly what I want to be doing. This feels like where I left off with my last project years later, and I can't believe it. And I don't know why this path has come to this at 30 years old. I'm about to turn 30. I'm calling my mom being like, I think I'm going to do another band at 30. And as per normal, she was very supportive. I think you should. That's great. It's been a long time. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And man, the first couple of years, Keep Flying was a band. I was involved, but only as much as I could be. And that was always like the way the conversations would go. I'd be like, I can only do this much because I have all this work.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed. It flipped big time, big time. And Henry or anyone in my band can be, can speak on that, but it
That's
completely
awesome.
flipped where I was like, oh, this is everything. This is, oh no, I got to push this all the way. I'm not taking these tours for work anymore. I've reprioritized. I'm finally cashing in all these favors I feel I've accrued over the years of just going out of my way for people time and time again with no
Mm-hmm.
compensation. And some of those favors came back, and that's great. And then it just was, here we are. Okay, what can we do here? What can we do
That's
with Keep
awesome.
Flying? What can we do to push this in any capacity, with any genre, anywhere? Can we do anything? Can we get playlisting? Can we get tours? What can we do here? I'm down to try anything just because I feel so driven by what
Yeah.
our message is more than anything else. And that's really post-pandemic. Going up to the pandemic, we did have a lot of steam, and like everyone who had, it was squandered like everybody. So
Yep.
don't really need to discuss that. That was just common across the board. But
Yep.
coming back, we like re-itched our place and refound where we're supposed to be. And I'd say in the last year and a half, I feel like it's really starting to get back to where it was. And I don't know, we just keep connecting with new people that are much more fired up for us.
Well, and so you mentioned touring a few times, and it's like I feel like you just got back from a tour
Yep.
that, from what I could see on your socials, seemed intense. Like you guys went all over.
Yes.
And it was every like 3 days or something you guys were playing somewhere else. Like you were just constant.
Oh, it was every
Um,
day. It was
was
every
it
day.
every day? Oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
gosh. For how many
Yeah.
weeks?
7.
That's what I thought. I thought it was
I
seven.
think
So 7 weeks nonstop.
we had 4 days off, 4 Mondays.
Wow.
So the Monday, the Monday before we met you, the day after we met you, and the following 2 Mondays were off. It was one more right before Denver, and then Labor Day, and then that was it. Then we had 21 shows after that.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And then you
And you
passed out.
guys, yeah,
No, I
no.
wanted to, but I'm a very stretched thin person, and I have a lot of responsibilities. So immediately upon, actually speaking transparently, I have skin cancer. It's very
Oh my
common.
gosh, so does Sai.
Yeah, well, it's
That's
very common.
horrible. I'm so sorry.
It is what it is, though. I mean, at least for me now. At first, I was horribly mortified, and then
Yeah.
realized, oh, this is very common. What's not common is my age with it, which is,
Yeah.
But I did spend 10 years on the Vans Warped Tour wearing very little clothing and even less sunscreen. So I accept what has happened, and now I just deal with it. But yes, I have removals every couple months, and it was the first thing I had to do after 7 weeks. I didn't even go home. I had to stay out east on Long Island because my appointment was like 7:45 a.m. So I didn't get the rest. I stayed in the van,
Oh
and
my
Just
then
out of
gosh.
curiosity, not to get personal, are you doing it surgically or with radiation, or how are you doing it? Because
surgically.
my first time in my 20s, I did surgically, and then I did from there on out radiation. Every time I've had to get it done again, and
So
I wouldn't go back.
you wouldn't go back?
I wouldn't do surgery. I would do radiation every time because the healing is
So
just so much better.
yeah, I mean, I sadly the scars but I guess look at me. So I'm not really someone who's concerned about scars really. But the first one, my friend who works in plastic surgery, I had a thing on my face, and she was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, that's cancer," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Stop." She's like,
Yeah.
"It's cancer. You gotta go. I'm telling you right now. I know what it looks like." And it was right at the time that I actually was losing my job at the same time, which really sucked. It just made me very confused. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I had to get a Mohs surgery
Yep. Me
on
too.
the side of my face, which, was fine. But I was so psyched out because I was like, what's going to happen to me?
Yeah.
And then since then, I actually have become acquaintances, I'd say, with my doctor, and he's only a couple years older than me, and we just talk about the tours, like we just talk about life, like when I go in there. But I've had to have things pulled off my head, my
Mhm.
arm. There's a lot of spots on my legs. Unfortunately, none of them have need to be removed yet, but like they might have to be. Um,
Yeah, mine's been all face and neck, and that's
Face and
growing up
neck.
in Florida.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my doctor had to have Mohs surgery on his nose, a very common spot,
Hmm.
for men for standing in the sun. I guess the nose. So he's got the big scar on his nose, and I'm like, oh, I hope I don't have to have anything on my nose. I really don't want my
So
nose.
funny story. My grandpa actually had skin cancer on the very tip of his nose. And what they had to do is they just lopped it off, right? And so
His
my
nose?
grandpa just had the tip of his nose. So he just has this flat spot that was on his nose. And I remember when I was little, I had asked him about it, and he said it was because he spent too much time pushing his face up against the sweet shop window that it stayed that way. And I thought that was what happened for literally years until he was like, "Oh no, it was skin cancer. Make sure you wear your sunscreen." I was like,
Yep.
"Oh, that's
Yeah.
very different than what I thought."
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it happens, right? It
it
is what it
does.
is. So, but anyways, yes, I didn't get to rest because then after that, again, more sadness, but it's healing for me. Lost my grandfather who raised us, who I lived with my whole life in June, and it's the biggest loss my family's ever had. So I have to go back and help them with a lot of things, with finishing the estate and then the array of the state of the home, the house where everyone still lives. Well, not everyone, but most of my family. My
Yeah.
sister and her husband and my nephew moved back in. So really, I'm coming off the road and I'm like right into other things, like nonstop. It
Like, let's
wasn't
just do
till
life
like
stuff now.
not till two nights ago where I finally got to go to like sleep and like not have to wake up and be like I'm running.
Wow. And aren't you guys about to start another tour?
Yeah, so I'm back. I'm in Nashville now. So I go back and forth between Long Island and Nashville, and have to fly back Wednesday because we have rehearsals Thursday, and then we have shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This month is our off month. We only have 5 shows in October.
Oh.
But in the next week and a half, we're announcing that the rest of the year we have like 4 tours in a row. So we're doing all of early November in New England, and then we're going to announce that we're going to Old England for the first time. We're going to the UK in mid-November.
Wow.
And then we just locked in another tour with some friends bands in the Midwest, and then we're going to have another thing. We come close to you. We come to DC on this thing in December, like mid-December. That's the closest we get. There's no Baltimore. It's like Richmond and DC.
Yeah, DC's not too bad. DC's in between me and Cy, so I mean, I might be able to make that.
Richmond's closer.
Richmond is closer.
Yeah, Richmond. We're
Cy's
doing
in Virginia, and I'm in Maryland. So
got it.
So
that's it. So
we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna have to come see you guys
And
because
you have to
need
drive
Cy
to get me anyway. So
that's true. I do have to because you don't have a damn car, so I still have to drive down to get you wherever we go.
Unless I
So
catch a Greyhound for 10 hours for a 4-hour trip.
oh, that's
Yes.
the worst. Oh,
So bad. So
I've
bad.
done those.
I came
Greyhound is
from
horrible. Never.
I came
never take
from
Greyhound.
Washington State to Baltimore on a Greyhound.
bus. Oh,
Yeah, 3 times.
Oh,
Horrendous.
oh. The
I
transfers.
need airline tickets to be a lot less expensive
Yeah,
because that's the only
pre-pandemic
reason.
prices, please.
Fucking hell. Anyway, so since you have toured quite a
Yes.
bit with Keep Flying, and you guys are touring even more in the very near future,
Yes.
do you have any good tour stories? Like any fun things that happened? Anything crazy? Any that you can tell?
I mean, I can tell any of them. I don't. I'm 37 now. I'm born in '86. You know, I as I've gotten more honest over the years and more upfront and more transparent as things have changed, you know, as the friends change and everything changes, I don't really have anything I can't tell now.
See,
I don't feel like I don't feel.
I'm the same way. I'm an open book. If you don't know where you stand with me, it's because you've never asked me. That's why. Like it's
Right.
not because I wouldn't tell you.
So as far as tour stories goes, I guess it's more so like what department in that. You know what I mean? Like for like this, like vehicle wise, show wise, like a great story about vehicle story.
Okay.
2019, this band played a show in the Quad Cities. It was Rock Island, Illinois,
Okay.
and we had a trailer? Nope, just a van. And we stayed with some friends who got an Airbnb after the show.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm pulling in, I was driving, I believe. As I'm pulling in to this very long driveway that seemed fine, as we got about halfway, I realized it was like rained out and super muddy. And suddenly the van just stopped, like moving, okay? So, per normal, everyone gets out and the pushing and the mud is spinning. We try cardboard. I think we found some plywood. We try that under the tire. Nothing. It's probably 1 o'clock now. All right, well, tow truck. We better do this now. Someone was like, let's just go to sleep, deal with it in the morning. That doesn't work for me. I don't want to have
Like
to
I'm
think
not
about
going to
this in the
sleep
morning.
because I'm going to be worried about the damn van. I need the van to be
Correct.
fixed so I can sleep.
Tow truck,
Same way.
and I'm gonna make this quick. Tow truck comes, it pulls down, it hooks us up, it starts going. That tow truck gets stuck. Same
I
mud.
knew it. I fucking knew you
Tow
were
truck
going to say
stuck.
that.
Guy is pissed off. This point where this is just comical now. A second tow truck comes, slightly larger, after this guy with the tow truck calls it in. That tow truck hooks up to this first one. We all start moving. I swear to Christ, that tow truck gets stuck in the same mud. This is a movie at this point. It's probably 3:30 a.m. because also they're driving like 45 miles away, right?
Right.
I tell everyone to go inside. It's just me. It might have been Peter as well. I'm basically just sitting in the front seat of the van, like trying to sleep while we just wait. These guys are cursing, yelling. We're not saying anything. Oh, we've called the Airbnb owner at this point. Let them know. Just so you know, we're stuck here. We're like, they have a phone number on there where they're not coming. They're not going to help. And I'm like, okay,
like,
I'm
"That
watching
sucks."
their property get destroyed because these tow trucks are just moving like this, destroying all the property. 5:30 a.m., a third truck comes. Massive, massive truck. And this time, he does not pull down the driveway. They do the thing where they pull the chains out, they wrap it around the trees.
Yeah.
They're pulling everybody out one by one. All of this chain of 2 trucks and the van, this poor van. Everything is covered in mud. You hear the tree snapping, like breaking. We get the thing out. It must be 6:15 a.m. I go inside. I ask if I could please sleep in one of the beds. I get told no. I'm so mad at this point. I sleep maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, because we had a long drive. Wake up at 8:30. Get outside. The amount of carnage on the property is so unacceptable. And we just leave. We get in the van and leave because no one ever came to help. That is one of my favorite vehicle stories we've ever had because I was awake for the whole thing and I couldn't believe what was happening. How, like a movie. What do you mean?
Did you ever hear
vehicle
anything from the Airbnb host?
Never heard a word from the Airbnb
They
host.
probably were just like, we don't care.
We sent
just fuck
videos, clips, we sent we sent everything. It was the property where the driveway was so destroyed because one of the tow trucks had gone all the way onto their lawn.
Right.
Another one went onto the other lawn. That was an amazing story. Different department. What other departments we got here?
Craziest thing that's happened on stage.
We have broken, I believe, 13 stages so far. It's either 12 or
The
13.
stage
I think
itself?
it's 13. The stage itself we have broken.
Wow.
Henry is a heavier fella.
Yeah.
He's 300 plus pounds, 340 something in there.
Right.
And I jumped very high. Unfortunately,
Yes, you do.
when him and I hit at the same place sometimes, the force and the weight, it just doesn't hold. And with former
That's a little
lineups of this band as
terrifying.
well. So we've gone through, I believe, 13 stages, of which our old trombone player's body went through one, and my whole right leg, which gave me this amazing scar up my shin on my right leg.
Yeah.
That happened at an outdoor mini festival in Ohio. Completely
So
through, just
Are these
leg
the
right
temp
through.
stages that are set up on the metal poles, or are these like
This
an
one was
actual...
This one was like pretty thick wood. Some of these stages are, only about this tall, some of them, and you hear just the wood cracking underneath. But some of them are stages that have been there for 15 years in venues, clubs, where we're like the support beam, and we're telling the like monitor guy after, just so you know, I think the support beam on stage left broke. I felt it and heard it, and there's a big soft spot in front of the drum riser now. I'm fairly
in
certain
the shape of my bandmate.
Right.
Well, so is that why the trombone player always has to have that knee brace now? Because he went through one of the stages?
So, funny enough, 4 of us have worn the knee braces. I have since gotten PRP treatment, and my right knee is good now. But at Fest in Gainesville, 2 Octobers ago, or was it last October? No, I think 2. I was doing some high kicks, and my meniscus and my ACL just blew out, just on a kick. Not my kicking leg, but my pivoting leg, it just blew out. So I was the first one wearing like a really industrial Stone Cold Steve Austin style knee brace.
Nice.
But then I got PRP, and the rest of my guys have also had similar problems. Chuck, Dustin, and Rick, all their knees are getting older, and we're still up there doing the same performance we all did when we were 20, and none of us are 20 anymore.
Jeez.
So they wear the knee braces, somewhat preventative, somewhat the pressure and the fear of it getting worse. I'm
Yeah.
blessed that I don't have to wear one anymore because I really hated wearing the brace. I hated it, and I wore it for months, but it prevented me from really putting my show on.
Yeah.
As I'm sure any performer in any sort of physical activity would feel if they had to have something like a boot or a brace on? How are you going to go put your show on the way you want to?
Yeah.
Have you broken any bones on stage? Or the band? As in, has the band broken bones, not have you broken a bone on the band?
I don't think anyone has broken a bone, luckily.
Thank goodness.
Only sprains and tears of ligaments and tendons and muscles. My eye almost came out. Our old trombone player, he was just whipping the trombone back and forth.
Did you catch the slide?
Didn't realize. And the end of the slide, it hit me right here, like right over my my eyelid, and I didn't even realize it happened because it was so fast, and we were still playing, and he looked at me and was like, "You're bleeding, you're bleeding," and I'm like, seeing the blood, and I'm not sure where it is because I'm feeling my forehead
like, where
going.
am I bleeding from?
I don't, and it wasn't until after that I realized that my eyelid was slit. And man, that I was bummed that night because I was like, brother, thank God you weren't an inch closer to me because it probably would have taken my eye out.
Yeah. Hey, Shae, show us your war wound. Here.
Oh my, this little.
I see it
right there. So, when I was really young, my dad had a set of old golf clubs, and he let us take them to go hit some balls in the park that was just down the street from us. And I know nothing of golf. So I had a putter. I didn't realize that a putter is not something that you swing with.
Yeah.
So I swung, everything was fine. My friend goes to swing, and I don't know what was wrong with her brain, but she was holding it like this, like down. So her grip was backwards. And I had told her, I was like, whoa, hold on a second. And she stood up. So I figured she heard me. And once I got within swing distance, she just kinked it back and chucked right into my, right over my eyebrow. And the funniest part of this is it was the first time I ever went to go get stitches, bleeding profusely because it's a head wound. And while I'm there getting stitches for the first time, there's a kid in the booth, like bay next to me, who's screaming bloody murder. Once they finished with him, he got the same number of stitches over the same eye because his friend hit him in the head with a putter at the same time of day. He was just like 7 and I was like 14. So
I didn't even realize this about that story because I've heard it like 6 times. I didn't even it never clicked to me. Why was she using a backswing on a putter? There is no backswing on a putter. You move it a few inches back and then follow through.
Because we didn't golf. We didn't know what the difference between a putter and a driver was. We thought they were all the same until I took one in the eye. And then I was like, that's the difference between a putter. That's really sharp.
This is the difference between you with a normal upbringing and me who was on the golf team in middle and high school.
Yeah. Oh, the best part is when I told my mom, like I come, like I was screaming because head wounds bleed profusely. If you've never had a head wound, like a tiny little cut.
All of us here have had head wounds.
But it's like seriously, like for the audience, if you've never had a head wound, like the tiniest little
you aren't living it
will just pour blood for hours. Like it's insane. So I go over to my mom and I was like, Mom, I need to go to the hospital. And she looks at me, she goes, oh, son of a bitch. Why did you let her have golf clubs, James? And I was just like, am I in trouble? Like, I feel like I'm the one bleeding, but I feel like I'm in trouble and I need to just be a good kid somehow, and bleed less. But yeah, so I feel you with all of the injury.
The two things that your mom was mad about, if I recall correctly, was A, that she had to take you to the hospital, but B, that you had ruined a kitchen towel, I think.
Yeah, and I turned it so the blood was facing out at one point because I was trying to find a clean spot. And she was like, turn it back. You're making people uncomfortable. And I was like, oh, okay. My mom's wonderful. We just...
all heart.
When she was frustrated, she was frustrated.
It's funny because people ask us, with the way you guys perform up there and the size of that stage being so small, which you saw us at Rams Head Live, which is a nice large stage.
Yeah.
That's a nice treat for us sometimes. We
Jeez.
have to
And you guys
work.
take up that stage, which is
Well,
crazy. I don't.
we have to work extra hard at venues like that because we feel the need to fill the space, right? But sometimes we
Right.
play stages that we actually don't even fit on, and that's like vice versa. Man, we don't have to work as hard, but this kind of sucks because there's
You're
no
like,
question.
yay, I'm playing.
People are like, how do you guys not hit into each other with the amount of energy? And we're like, oh, honey, we
You
are
do.
hitting into each other at every single show that we play. We just do a really good job of not letting you know. We're getting pissed off at each other up there. Where the instruments are taking damage. There's dents on the trombone. There's dents on people's faces. There's dents on people's knees. We have the dialogue after every set like, oh, I took a big hit from Rick tonight. He's like a brick wall, and it's like, oh, almost knocked the wind out of me just because he was standing behind me when I spun, and I just spun
Yep.
right into him. It happens almost every show without fail. Our bass player loves to run back and forth behind us, but sometimes we don't realize he's running, so we step in the way. You feel him hit your back, your calf. You're like, oh.
How much
Yeah,
ice is
I
involved
saw a
after
couple of
shows?
close calls. I saw a few close calls where I was like, "Oh, that bass player got really close to somebody else's face." Like,
And
oh,
that's
that
the
was
thing with a stage like Ram's Head. It's a big stage, so we're like, we're gonna go extra hard. But even when we have the space, sometimes it's like, I can't believe you hit me. You had so much space, and
you had all of
somehow
this room.
how did you hit me with all of the space that you have? I don't understand. But it's just all of us trying to. Which I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather be in a band of 6 humans who are all giving their all up there and looking the part and doing the energy than having the 1 or 2 people who are just doing a little bit less or feeling awkward where you notice. Because I'll see
Yeah.
artists all the time where some people up there are putting a lot out and some are not. Some are focused on the playing, which is also important, and some just don't have the same energy, so it doesn't really feel as cohesive. Whereas we're just like, let's get up there, let's crank through it, let's all go crazy, and then we'll take the break after.
I feel like you guys need like the thing that they map out plays on football with. Like, this is your zone. You stay in that zone.
When we headline and we sound check, we have that dialogue. We look at the stage and go, well, this is where I'm going to be mostly. We like plot out like a little bit of the,
Do not.
I
cross
know you're going to
zone.
move around here, so I'm going to move the monitors up a little bit. That way there's some more room for me to move forward when you're running behind me. That way we can try to avoid some of the stuff. We do talk that out, especially at the stages that are smaller, so that and the same with the breaking thing. We check the stages. We get up there and we walk around and we jump a little bit when we're sound checking to see, like, is there any soft spots up here? that
Or,
we gotta
ooh,
be
this is
careful
nice
for?
and springy. I'll get a nice bit of
Right.
air off this.
We
Put, like, a
we
giant
notice
X,
the spots.
Like, don't go here.
We do that. We mark it with gaff tape.
Yes.
Like, this is a soft spot. It's going to break. Don't jump there.
Anywhere
I don't
else.
want to break.
Like, tiptoe over here. If you come over here, just really light.
A giant red X right over. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
This is so great.
yeah.
So okay, you said that you had other bands before. What kind of music were you doing before? Because being a saxophone player, I would imagine you're kind of pigeonholed in what you can do, because there's a lot of places that aren't gonna like hard metal with a saxophone. A lot of people aren't going to entertain that. So what other band genres did you do besides ska?
I will say, luckily now it's changed. I mean, it's cyclical, but like saxophone is in now. That's just
Sax
what
is
it is.
awesome.
Sax is in. A lot of my friends play sax, and they've been guest spotting live. My buddy, he goes by the moniker Saxel Rose. He plays for everybody, and he's out of Baltimore area. It's a weird name, Havre de Grace.
Oh yeah.
He's out of there, and he plays with Neck Deep, Paramore, but also Miss May I, metalcore band, and I think Amoroso or Dance Gavin Dance, one of these. Like he plays all over. There's this band that I really love called Bill Murray, and he has a female alto sax player who's up there, does alto sax, also hype and vocals, and it's amazing. And their music is not ska at all. It's like in between rock adjacent music. A lot of pretty singing, but also heavy as well. But for me, it was always some sort of ska adjacent music. One of the first bands I was in was more like a heavy band where I was one of two horn players and then the only horn player for the last several years of the band. But it was a lot of like heavy stuff, but sometimes dancey stuff, kind of just in between. The band after that was more like leaning in the kind of where Keep Flying is now, leaning in the pop punk side of things, punk rock fast, but still had some like upstroke ska stuff. And then, but over the years of not playing in a band, I was playing sax. I would do the live thing with any friend that would have me. So I got to play with Hello Goodbye, with Set Your Goals, 4 Year Strong, Saves the Day, Story So Far.
Very cool.
Pretty much anybody who was like, yeah, you have an idea for this like bridge, like come up and play. And that was really fun for me because it was cool to bring saxophone to not ska music.
Yeah. Well, and I think sax has a lot that it can put into a lot of different kinds of music.
Yes.
Size question. So what was generally the best venue you've played? Either the crowd, the stage, behind the scenes, support?
Yeah, just the all-around best. Not like specifically which crowd was the best, but like the best one you played.
With Keep Flying, the best show like we've ever done?
Ask the hard questions.
Okay, so I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you what I think is the best show we've ever done.
And I don't mean the best you performed. I meant the best place you've done a show.
Yes, I'm going to give you
Okay.
two because they're two very different. Overall, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Vans Warped Tour final show in summer 2019.
Okay.
We were opening one of the main stages. We played a little bit after Gates. There were other bands playing. I think Atreyu was behind us. I think also, I think it was Atreyu. Somebody was playing behind us.
I love Atreyu. Yeah.
We put on such an amazing performance, and as we were playing, the people that we both know and I recognized by seeing them and didn't know were filling in front of the stage at the Sand and getting progressively crazier and crazier till we closed with a song where half of my bandmates and I were in the barricade with the wireless mics and people were singing back. And it felt like for the first time we really were doing it. Yeah. And that was summer 2019. It felt like this is going to work. I can see this working now.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I will speak about the tour that we just did for the new record. We played Orlando on a Sunday, the same weekend as Riot Fest in Chicago. So all of our friends who are in the Orlando area are sadly not there. They're all in Chicago at Riot Fest, either working or just attending. And still, so my expectations were very low. It was the best show of the tour, the most people singing the words to the new song at this little venue called Will's Pub that we've played many times. It was packed in there. It was so sweaty, and we were up there giving everything, and everyone was, there were plenty of other good shows on the tour, but this one in particular was just so much energy coming back. We've been playing this song called 198 Broadway, which is the last track off Daylight, and it starts with like a piano part playing the horn line that eventually becomes the sing-along woes at the end of the song. And for live, Rick and I, the way we've been introing the song, Rick and I have been starting the woe part on the horns, just us two, and then Henry leads the crowd like, this is going to come later. People started singing the woes before Henry even started saying what is about to happen. So people preemptively already knew that this is the part, which means they knew the song. And I'm sitting there playing the sax, trying not to tear up because I'm going, they're singing the part already, and we're not even, Henry hasn't said a word yet.
Yeah.
And so the trajectory, and that's been my favorite part of the set every night because the song lyrically hits me still, gives me goosebumps. It's very important for our band. And
That's so cool.
it was just like monumental. Shell, size. Yeah. So it was just an amazing way, especially because our friends, not all of them were there,
Right.
and a Sunday.
So that's when you really get to look at it and say, like, all of the odds were against us and we still had all of this, which means
Yes.
that
Yeah.
we, like, it's confirmation that what you're doing is good.
Without your
Yes.
friends, the fans, your fans are still hardcore in the audience.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I made new friends that night, and I had great conversations that night. And that was another moment, what I said about Atlantic City, where I literally, to my bandmates after the set, went, this could work. This made me feel like this could work. This record could work. These songs might reach the right people. Like, these lyrics might be held on. Like, this really might work for us.
I wholeheartedly think that there's absolutely no reason that you guys can't blow up and be huge, because you have the passion, you have the drive, your songs are really good. I'm a lyrics person as much as I love the music. Lyrics make or break songs for me. So
and I'm the opposite. So there we go.
Yeah. So if lyrics are, just really kind of lackluster, or in some cases there's lyrics where I'm like, this is just a terrible song. Like, this is like a horrible message.
Sure.
It doesn't really matter how great the music is, because the lyrics will pull me out of it. But you guys just blend everything together so well, it becomes an experience instead of it just being one or the other. It's a full on experience, and it was really fun to see. Shae, you said you had one more question.
I did. I wasn't ready yet.
Did you forget it?
No. Do you go with the? Because I haven't seen you play. So do you go with like the classic gold color for your saxophone? Because I played saxophone for like 3 minutes, so I'm just curious.
The color of the horn?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it is. I'm currently playing on a carbon copy of a Selmer. It's a Jean Baptiste. It's an interesting horn because it was a prototype that was number 4 in a series of 5 that was supposed to get made for the Sam Ash chain. I don't know if you ever heard of Sam Ash music stores. It's like a chain in the U.S. And then it did not. It failed, so they did not end up making them. My buddy at the time, acquaintance at the time rather, was the buyer for the New York regional buyer, and he was really pushing this horn on me because it was durable. I'm like, I need a durable horn. I don't want to spend $12,000 on a sax that I'm going to break on stage, because you see my performance is very wild.
Yes.
So this horn is your standard gold finish lacquer. But I think I need to retire it soon, because it's back at the shop right now with my wonderful technician, David Dyer, here in Nashville, who is old and young at heart, but old in spirit, and I don't know how much longer he's going to work. These people are tinkerers. I don't know how else to explain them, except they remind me of hobbits. They all have their little desk with all the tools, and every tech that's worked on any horn I've had has been seemingly 175 years old. But they're all like 70 to 80, but they all look like they're 175.
You don't call them instrument hobbit, do you?
No, but I think I may. I do feel like that era of craft is going away, like that occupation. No, horn technicians, the occupation's not leaving, but the way that it was done with those tinkerers, like
Luke is saying dwarven artificers.
Exactly. And they all have their own way. This is how you do this. Yep. And they all of them that I've ever met are always looking up for somebody to apprentice to so they could teach. This is the way I've done it, and this is a way I think that you'd like to try, and you can put your own spin on it. But every time one of my technicians retires, the next one I find is also aged out, but still working. 90 years old, still choosing to work. I respect it. My grandfather worked until he was 89 years old, where he was laid off during the pandemic like everybody else, and received unemployment for that entire time, not like everyone else, and made a lot of my friends my age feel horrible because he was 89 getting unemployment and they didn't get unemployment. And it's because he never wanted to retire. And post-pandemic, they tried to bring him back and he considered it. So,
Wow.
you know,
Same thing with
Wow.
my mom in her 70s.
some people, like, it keeps them young. I know that it kept my grandfather alive. He loved working. He loved who he worked with. He loved how he worked.
Yeah.
And if you love something that much, whatever it is, some people it is their job. Great. Then do it, especially if
Yeah.
you like doing it.
Absolutely.
So what I was going to
Yes,
show
I think
you
I will.
was this.
That's a crazy color there.
And that,
That is awesome.
Yeah, there's a company, Cannonball. They make a lot of horns that have like a black bell, a silver, a bronze, a faded gold, and they all have different sounds. I recently was looking at some horns, and the guy was telling me, well, this one has this kind of sound, this one has this, all the different platings.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm playing in a punk band, so for me, it doesn't really matter. I need a volume, which I have to use a metal mouthpiece for, and even then, I'm the quietest thing on the stage. So I don't know.
So do you have a
what I'll
microphone
use
at the
next.
end of your sax?
I don't use a wireless just because every time I've tried, when I move around, it just falls off.
I
My
was
buddy
gonna say, with
JR,
the way that you move, I feel like it would just knock into everything or fall off.
there is a way. The guys in Less Than Jake have a great system with like a Velcro system with their wireless mics, and those things do not move at all. I just have become so accustomed at this point to being someone who likes to get home on stage, as I put it. I like running around and doing antics and having fun because I like to get back to my place. Like, I like to get back home. Here comes the horn part. Let me get back to my spot. I feel like I'd be a little like overwhelmed if I didn't. I like bringing it back. Like when me and Rick need
you
to
need
play.
the structure.
Yes, we like to get
Yeah.
back to it. We can go off and then come back. And if I was full wireless, I feel like I would wander too much. Like I'd be in the crowd, which is cool sometimes, but I save that for the shows that are small where I don't need a microphone because it's so tiny. I can just like go out to the back of the room, play by the merch table, and people are like, yeah, like make it more like a party.
Yeah. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm so happy that we were able to have you on. Definitely want to follow up with you as you guys continue to grow and everything, because this is what you guys do is just so much fun. It's so amazing. There's so much energy to it. And this was fantastic, especially for the first episode of Fringe Benefits. I'm so happy that we got you on. And Sai, do you have any other things you want to say before we wrap?
No, you make me want to get back into music.
That's good.
Fantastic. John, is there anything that you want to tell our viewers, people watching on replay?
We've got a new record out called Daylight. It's the most vulnerable, honest songs that we've ever written. There, I'm pointing. I don't know which way I'm supposed to point. I'm gonna go like this. Oh, there it is.
Daylight.
There are some really honest songs in there, lyrically speaking. As I said before, the last track, I still get goosebumps every time we play it. And as we mentioned, we are about to announce a bunch more tour dates all over the U.S. and the U.K. for the rest of the year. Come out to a show and have a good time.
That is awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody who hung out in the chat and, geeked out over some really awesome ska music with us. And thank you again, John, for hanging out with us. This was unbelievable. Definitely can't wait to see you guys back here, near here at some point soon. Yeah, Woodrow, you definitely want to go to a concert. I think you'd
We'll be
enjoy it.
back. I'm going to guess spring next year. We're hoping to
Nice.
be supporting someone larger, and that will be hopefully a full U.S. for next year where we get back to the West Coast.
Oh,
Really
that's so
quickly,
great.
an amazing artist who stops by from time to time. Here you go, Mr. Krager, just for you.
Thank you, Krager. I did.
Yeah.
I whacked it all off.
Yeah,
It's nice.
Getting.
Shay's
Thank
hair
you.
was,
It was-
below mid-back before.
Oh, he saw me when it was the.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
long.
that's
long.
true. That's true.
Yeah. So, But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you next time on Fringe Benefits. See you later.